It's 1946 and the Italian people just voted to abolish the monarchy. You're the deposed king of Italy. What happens to all your stuff? Debates about the role of official but ceremonial royal families and their effects on public finances made me wonder. What does it look like when a monarch is deposed? What assets are taken for the state and how? What are these assets put into the purpose of? In short, what happens to all their stuff? Italy provides a potential example. It is one of the most recent Western monarchies to be abolished, and did so by supplanting it with a pure republic with no ceremonial role for the royal family. Shortly after World War II, a popular referendum determined the future governance of Italy, which had been ruled as a kingdom under the House of Savoy since 1861. Victor Emmanuel III, the monarch during the war, was unpopular for his capitulation to the Italian fascists under Mussolini, and abdicated the throne to his son Umberto II to improve the chances of the monarchy's survival. Italian voters were presented in June of 1946 with a keenly straightforward ballot, Repubblica o Monarchia. With almost 90% turnout, a healthy majority of voters supported creating the republic that has governed Italy to the current day. Provision 13 of the new Italian constitution ratified in 1947 handles the royal family. Though strict, it intended to preserve the new government by preempting attempts to re-establish the monarchy. It prohibited members of the royal house from holding office or even voting. It also exiled them, constitutionally prohibiting them from being in Italy. Importantly for our story, a final clause stated, "The assets existing on national territory of the former kings of the House of Savoy, their spouses and their male descendants, shall be transferred to the state," followed by a measure to prevent them from transferring the assets to some intermediate third party. This is very clear on the biggest asset of the royal family. There are estates and palaces that are firmly fixed to Italian soil. Royal palaces at Milan, Caserta, and Turin were ceded, as well as numerous castles and villas. Well over a dozen of the most ornate buildings and properties in the entire country, many of them with hundreds of years of history. These have indeed been converted to serve state or public functions. The Grand Palace of Caserta was converted into a park and occasional filming location. The Quirinal Palace was designated an official residence of the President of Italy, like many of the other estates converted for the governing needs of the Republic of Italy. Other properties and castles were converted into public parks and museums, attractions that became famous the world over. In financial assets, the departing royal family was not destitute. Though it's hard to find multiple sources on their personal fortunes, a eulogy for Victor Emmanuel upon his death in 1948 in Time magazine assigns to the family a £1 million insurance policy taken out by his father Umberto I that paid out when he was assassinated in 1900, and $6 million of money held in British banks. Umberto II lived out his life in Portugal, with his family presumably drawing from these funds. One notable personal possession, though, is subject to continued dispute: the crown jewels of Italy. These have been unseen by the public since 1900, and at the end of World War II, needed to be hidden from Hitler during the German invasion of Italy. These jewels famously include the Queen's tiara, adorned with pearls and hundreds of diamonds. The Savoy family's descendants were allowed to return to Italy in 2002, and in 2022 sued for possession of the jewels, but the case is unresolved and the jewels remain locked up at the Bank of Italy. So the land, the financial assets, and the crown jewels are all accounted for. That wraps up the list below. Wait, the Shroud of Turin? The Christian artifact discovered in the 1300s and worshipped as the actual piece of cloth that was laid over the crucified Jesus' body and bears an imprint of his body and face? That Shroud of Turin was owned by the Italian royal family? Yes, near the end of the Hundred Years' War in 1415, the mythical shroud was passed in possession from a small French church to the House of Savoy, and in 1578 it was brought to Turin, the town which gives it its name. Turin was the capital of the Duchy of Savoy in the westernmost part of Italy, when this was the extent of the family's domain before the unification of Italy. There is therefore an intimate triplicate association between family, city, and artifact. As a personal belonging, the House of Savoy maintained exclusive ownership, even as they were separated from it in exile, while the shroud remained in the chapel of the Holy Shroud in Turin. Finally, in 1983, Umberto II passed away and voluntarily bequeathed the shroud to the Holy See, the seat of the Catholic Church, closing the chapter on a tradition of over 500 years of continuous ownership. After this research, exiling a royal family and taking all their stuff seems more straightforward than I thought. Well, thanks for watching.